Hello and welcome to this video on the importance of context in your literature questions. It comes from this really useful publication, GCSE English Literature Teaching Context, which is from the Further Insight series, and I will post a link to this in the description below. Please look at the description in the video to find out how to how to get hold of this resource. So to get inside the examiner's head, well, they've actually invited us in. Why have we decided to change the way we approach context? And this reason is really important. The current question structure encourages teaching and learning which focuses on social, cultural, and historical context in a way that is not always integrated with the study of the text. This means that students often write about social, cultural, and historical context separately from the meaning of the text. So that's what the examiners want you to stop doing. They don't want context to be a separate thing from the meaning. In other words, when you're discussing the meaning of the text, you bring context in then. Context works like an embedded quotation, another bit of evidence that helps you come to the meaning of the text. In the same way, I've been teaching you to write about context when you write about the author's purpose, because the author's purpose is the meaning the author wants you to get from the text. So that's why context is so important now. It must be related to meaning. Now, it may be that your teachers are telling you context is not that important because it only counts for 15% of your literature marks. However, because all your other marks are made up from your analysis of quotations or your analysis of the form and structure and the author's point of view, it's actually worth a lot more, because context will tell you why that structure has been used or why that form has been used, or context will tell you why the author has that particular viewpoint. So actually, although the real marks just for mentioning context are quite small, writing about the meaning of the context will get you all the marks on the paper. So context is actually the most important part of your answer. Just as important as all the quotations you use. How is this reflected in the mark scheme? So 1 bullet out of 5 reflects the weighting of context. So if I just scroll down, it's just this 1 bullet in AO3. So on the one hand, context plays only a small part. There are 5 bullet points and this one is just one of them. However, if we look at this note, the description of AO3 performance is integrated with the description of the other skills. So this is what I've been telling you. When you write about the other parts of the extract and the novel, bringing the context into it, you are demonstrating other skills which also get marks. This reflects the approach of our exam questions and our mark scheme. We view discussions of a text's wider meaning, remember the context gives you the meaning, and a writer's craft as integral to any exploration of context. So for example, if you're writing about the context of the play or the novel, you must be being exploratory. If you have a thesis which says why the writer is writing this particular text, that will depend on the context of the time, and so that will give you a well-structured argument. If your answer is conceptualized, it will be because you have decided what the author's purpose is, and that purpose is always linked to the context. So without laboring the point, I hope you can see that context will help you get everything in the top band. That's what it does. So the fact that it's only mentioned directly in 1 bullet point shouldn't make you think, oh, I hardly need to mention it at all. It informs everything else that you write. Well, now we're going to look at an actual example. Here we are using Macbeth. So Act 3, Macbeth is talking about his feelings about Banquo. Upon my head, They placed a fruitless crown, and put a barren sceptre in my gripe, thence to be wrenched with an unlineal hand. No son of mine succeeded. If it be so, for Banquo's issue have I filed my mind. For them, the gracious Duncan, have I murdered, put rankers in the vessel of my peace, only for them, and mine eternal jewel given to the common enemy of man, to make them kings, the seed of Banquo kings, rather than so. Come fate into the list, and champion me to the utterance. So hopefully in my reading you can experience some of Macbeth's rage at how pointless his kingship is. He feels that it's pointless because he's going to have to give it away to Banquo, and if not to Banquo's sons. And so it is, if you like, a barren scepter because he will not profit from it himself. So the examiner gives us a way to write about the context. Questions that may be useful to ask about this extract might include: why does Macbeth describe his crown and scepter as fruitless and barren? Well, obviously that's going to be linked to the fact that he has no children himself, and therefore they cannot follow him. What does Macbeth mean by mine eternal jewel? So this is a reference to his soul, and he sacrificed his soul in order for earthly power and becoming king, and it's a sacrifice because obviously his soul will go to hell having committed regicide. What does Macbeth mean by the words list and champion? So this is a reference to knights jousting. The list was effectively the list of competitors, which then became the competition itself, and the champion is the winner. In order to answer these questions, students might need to understand that. So this is the context that you need. And the examiners are giving you a heavy steer here, if you study Macbeth, that this is the stuff they want to hear from you. The idea of paternal lineage would be very important to Macbeth. It's not only his reign in the here and now, but his line that is very important to him. In other words, his son becoming king and his son's son and so on. A contemporary audience would appreciate the point being made by Macbeth here, because that's exactly how King James has come to the throne. He has claimed a hereditary line from Banquo, in fact, as well as from Queen Elizabeth I. From Henry VIII. The idea of the afterlife would be very important to a contemporary audience. They would appreciate that Macbeth selling his soul had enormous implications for him, because they'd believe in these ideas about heaven and hell. The notions of chivalry and courtly honour, they come from the jousting idea up here, are being highlighted through some of Macbeth's language, reminding the audience of the extent that he has already removed himself from behaving like a hero. I didn't make absolutely clear that that's what the question was about. Now let's find the question. There we go. In the following extract, Macbeth is talking about his feelings about Banquo. So we've got to write about that. So now the examiner shows us how that analysis of the context will help us be exploratory. Remember, that was in the mark scheme. So although on one level students might understand that Macbeth feels that he has wasted his soul by killing Duncan, they could possibly develop a deeper understanding by being introduced to some of the ideas that would be familiar to a contemporary audience, like I've just done. Notice how in this example the contextual ideas are specific and relevant to that moment in the text. This approach helps to avoid students making generalized comments about all people in that time or everyone believed in and so on. So you make those comments based on the quotations that you find here. That's what the examiners are trying to point you toward. Right, well next they give us an actual question. Starting with this speech, explain how far you think Shakespeare presents Macbeth as a hero, write about how Shakespeare presents Macbeth in this speech, and how Shakespeare presents Macbeth in the play as a whole. So hopefully you know that the bullet points are just there to get you started writing, but they're not marked. What's marked is this, how Shakespeare presents Macbeth as a hero, and all you have to do is make sure that some parts come from this speech and some parts come from the play as a whole. If you've been paying real attention, you will know that I encourage you to write about the speech, but as soon as you've made a point about the speech, you then relate it to the play as a whole. And the same goes for the 19th century novel. I won't explain that now, that's for my other videos. Check them out if you haven't done so already. Okay, well, let's look at the extract they give us to consider Macbeth's role as a hero. This happens just before Macbeth is attacked in his castle, and just before Birnam Wood moves towards Dunsinane. Bring me no more reports. Let them fly all. Till Birnam Wood remove to Dunsinane, I cannot taint with fear. What's the boy Malcolm? Was he not born of woman? The spirits that know all mortal consequences have pronounced me thus. Fear not, Macbeth. No man that's born of woman shall e'er have power upon thee. Then fly, false thanes, and mingle with the English epicures. The mind I sway by and the heart I bear shall never sag with doubt, nor shake with fear. Enter a servant. The devil damn thee black, thou cream-faced loon! Where got'st thou that goose look? Well, hopefully from that reading you've picked up a sense of Macbeth's anger, but also a sense that he's trying to talk himself up into courage and deny his own fear. Well, let's see what the examiners point us towards in terms of context. So there's the question again, in case you've forgotten it. In this sample task, it is the idea of heroism that is pointing students towards AO3. That's the context mark. Students could approach this task in a range of ways, including the literary context, so how it's a play, how it's a tragedy, the social context, so how it's reinforcing King James's right to rule after the death of Queen Elizabeth I, or the cultural or historical. So the cultural might be to look at the attitudes towards witchcraft, and so might the historical. And also what was viewed as typically heroic at the time. For example, if students approach the task from a social or historical perspective, they might choose to consider the expectations of what expectations of a hero might be, and the extent to which Macbeth is demonstrating those characteristics at this moment. That's why the extract is there. Such as, why does Macbeth refuse to hear more reports? Well, because he knows that they mean he's going to be defeated, but he can't face the idea of defeat, and instead cling to the witch's prophecies. Well, the examiner is suggesting that he realizes there that if he's clinging to these, that his situation is hopeless, but he's desperately trying to find a way out of this hopeless situation by believing the witches. Why does Macbeth refer to the Thanes as false? Well, because they are traitors to him, but perhaps also because they have been pretending to be on his side, just as he has been pretending, like Lady Macbeth encouraged him, to look like the innocent flower but be the serpent under it. Why does Macbeth claim that his mind and heart shall never sag with doubt? Well, one could be to portray himself as a hero, and the other could be to talk himself into this heroic state, because actually he finds that his heart and his mind are both feeling doubtful and weak. He can't really see how the witch's prophecies can possibly come true. Why does Macbeth insult the servant, particularly with reference to the devil? Well, it could reflect his own evil, but also his disappointment in himself, that he's effectively sold his soul to the devil for a worthless prize. His kingship has not lasted long, and it's just about to be ripped from him. In order to understand The implications of what Macbeth is saying here might students need to understand that. So this is the context that the examiners think you desperately need to know. Macbeth has committed his soul completely to the course that the witches have encouraged him to take rather than following his own conscience. Remember, his conscience was telling him not to kill Duncan, but he's given in to the image that the witches have put in his head. Rather than listening to advice and taking leadership of the situation, he has chosen to become blind to the reality of his position. He is not, therefore, behaving like a good king or a noble leader. Loyalty towards the king would be expected of those around him. So that's what Shakespeare is demonstrating when he writes this play. It's completely out of loyalty to King James I. For the Thanes to have become false, Macbeth would have to be behaving as a very bad leader. So they've defected from him, if you like, because he is not showing any of the heroic leadership that they might expect. A good king would be expected to demonstrate qualities of strong leadership and bravery. So Macbeth did show that at the start of the play when he was defending Scotland against the invaders from Norway. However, Macbeth, by saying that he will never sag with doubt, could be said to be exhibiting these qualities in this speech, but perhaps there is an element of blind refusal to his words as well. In other words, the examiner is suggesting that he should be feeling doubt, but he's blindly refusing to, and the Thanes pick up on this, and that's why they defect. A hero might be expected to treat others with respect. Instead, Macbeth resorts to insults of his servant here, especially to a powerless servant, and that's not the behavior of a heroic character. Or students could approach the task via a literary context route. They might choose to consider the notion of a tragic hero and the extent to which this extract demonstrates how far Macbeth has fallen from his position of grace at the start of the play. So, for example, the extreme presentation of hubris, that's his sense of pride in himself and being too proud in himself. So his sense of hubris in this extract. And the positioning of this speech just before Macbeth's death. So you've heard the expression pride before a fall, and Shakespeare deliberately makes Shakespeare feel most pride just before he's about to be defeated in battle. The extent to which Macbeth has embraced the words of the witches by now, and even the language he uses himself, devil damn thee black, demonstrating how far he has allied himself with them, so with the forces of evil, in order to serve his own ambition, and the extent to which Macbeth might in fact have a sense of his own imminent final downfall, and what expectations a contemporary audience might have of his need to recognize this prior to his death. So they would be expecting him to repent his actions and turn once more to God, in the hope of saving his soul. And actually Shakespeare doesn't give that to Macbeth. He doesn't turn back to God. He never prays for forgiveness. He dies entirely unrepentant. So appreciation of context is linked to the understanding of the text as a conscious construct. So that's another way of saying that is the author's purpose. The author has constructed the text in this way in order to make you think of particular ideas. So dealing with the context always gives you the author's purpose and always gets you the top marks. Similarly to appreciation of AO2. So that's where the examiner is spelling out that by writing about context in AO3, you are also appreciating the language of AO2. Therefore, teachers will make decisions about which approach to take, depending on the needs and abilities of their own particular students. I reject that completely. This is basically saying some students are dumb and don't give them too much context. No, students, all of you can understand the context. You just need to be taught the facts. And once you're taught it, you can apply it to your essay. Don't let the examiner take you for a fool. And finally, look out for my next video in this series where I will be looking at the examiner's answer It's not quite a model answer, but it's not that long. You will see from the commentary that it is a level 4 with some elements of level 5. So I'll take you through that answer and show you how to get level 6. Good luck in the exam. Don't forget to subscribe. There's at least 2 videos coming every day, and good luck.